Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Miss Meredith Sims. Hey, Meredith.
Hey, Dr. Kimberly, how are you doing today?
I am great and so excited to get you on. I had invited you a while back and just things, happened here and there and
hmm
and now you're here. So I'm so excited to have you.
Me too. I'm so glad you reached out again. It's really good to be here.
Yeah. So just so people know who you are, I'm just going to read your short bio.
hmm
So, Meredith Sims is a financial advisor specializing in values driven financial planning and socially responsible investing. She's passionate about empowering women to take charge of their finances and build a strong foundation aligned with their values. Her love of nature and compassion for others shape her commitment to meaning, earth friendly investing. As a lifelong spiritual seeker and artist, Meredith views money as a tool for living a fully expressed life, uniquely defined by each individual. Based in Atlanta with roots across the globe, she enjoys travel, gardening, painting, and learning French. Meredith has contributed to several collaborative books on abundance, courage, and creativity, and is working on her own book about money. All right. So, because your profession does have to do with the financial industry, we do have some legal things that we have to handle right here. So, I'll let you do that right now.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. Yes, I am a licensed financial advisor. And because of that, I just have to make a few disclaimers. And these are all on my website as well, which I know will be in the show notes. But, if we talk about any investing today, obviously, I'm not making any offers to sell securities. Investing involves risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results. And I also am associated with a securities advisory firm, Cabot Lodge, and my own firm is Heartstrong Wealth Planning, which is an independent entity. And you can see it on the screen there, the actual disclosures. And as I said, if you want to read about that some more, it's also on my website.
All right. Well, thank you.
I
So,
never know. It's just like such a mouthful, and I try not to read the whole thing, even though probably I should, but hopefully people can read it for themselves.
exactly. And they know where to find it.
The legalese.
So, yes. So, now let's talk about you.
Yes.
So tell us your story. You came from across the ocean.
hmm
You can start wherever you want. Just let us know who you are and how you got to be doing what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, long story, I guess. I was originally in IT. I've always loved to travel, and I've always moved. I guess I've moved around, not a huge amount compared to some people, but I grew up in Perth, Australia, and then we lived in the north of Western Australia for a time, which was really quite idyllic. Then I moved to Brisbane, Queensland, and then I moved to London. And from London, I went back to Australia, then to Sydney. And you can get a theme here. And then I ended up in the US. And the reason I ended up in the US was the same reason I ended up in London and Sydney, is that I like travel. I like being in new places. I think it's very energizing. And yeah, I like to see new things. So I came to the US expecting to be here for just a couple of years, traveled extensively in my career at the time. So I saw a lot, which was great. And that was, gosh, that was like 30 years ago, I think, showing my age. So unexpected. But along the way, funnily enough, I was always looking to do something sort of more personal. When I was in London, I did different courses. I tried a little fashion course, and the leader of that course put me back in my place and said, "Well, you're never going to be a designer." I thought, thank you for that knockback." But I always wanted to do something creative and personal. I didn't really know what it was. So I tried a number of different things. I even at one point I was building websites for some artists, friends, and some gallery owners. Realized that much as that was fun, I was not going to make a living doing it. And along the way, someone introduced me to the concept of, the financial arena. And I said, I don't want to sell insurance. That was my concept of, what it's all about. But we had a mutual friend, and I thought, I talked to him, and I guess what happened is along the way, I started to realize this world of financial services, which is kind of, how most people refer to it, is not. It's about numbers. There are definitely numbers involved, and I am quite analytical, but ultimately, it's about people and their stories and their lives and how they want to live those lives. And I think once I understood that that was really at the heart of what we do in our work, it just became something that was felt much closer to my heart. Because I have to say, in the early stages in this industry, I felt like I put it in one of my books. I felt like this kind of creative, organic, colorful person stuck in this like little square beige box because it just didn't feel like a fit. And it took me something to get to the point where, oh, yes, this is a fit. There is something for me to do here. There is some work that I can align with that makes sense and that makes a difference. That's kind of the snapshot.
Yeah, yeah. And don't we all want to get to that spot
Mm-hmm.
where we feel like we're in the right spot that's
Mm-hmm.
comfortable, like a comfortable chair,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
try to get it too
The right
hard or
chair.
too soft or whatever. It was like, oh, finally.
Yeah, yeah.
When you
Someone, I've heard this said a few times recently, and I didn't hear it early on in my career, but it's that Stephen Covey quote about, if you're climbing up a ladder, make sure it's against the right wall. And, we all have different ways in which we finally figure out what the right wall is. Some of us do it sooner than others. I think I took my time, but it's good to be there eventually.
Mhm. Yeah, and sometimes
Mm,
those earlier experiences help us, shape us
mm-hmm,
to be and do what we're going to do.
mm-hmm, mm. Yeah, I think that's very true. I mean, if I look at everything that I've done across, from the travel and even like the different experiences I've had at different stages in my career as an advisor and the challenges I've faced, they've all informed and made me a better person and a better advisor now.
Mhm.
Um, because I've experienced a lot of the sort of challenges that the women that I work with have experienced. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I was thinking about the travel too. Do you
Hmm.
have a favorite place or a place that you've gone back to more than once because it's just one of those places?
Well, it's funny that you asked me that because currently my nephew is in London, and he's getting to see so many places and going to so many countries and cities. And I tend to be a little bit more of a creature of habit. So I tend to go back to the same places. I mean, obviously, I visit family. I have family in New Zealand as well as Australia. So that's a given. And I love the south of France. I've recently done a couple of trips to Morocco, which I really enjoyed. Um, so I have a favorite place because I also enjoy being in London. I was there late last year. But I think any new place that I go to is a favorite place
Mhm.
because I just love the the difference of it all. I find it very enlivening. I feel sort of so alive when I'm in a new culture or a new city. I mean, and that can even be, it doesn't even have to be a foreign city. It just,
Mhm.
you could be driving down a different street and it feels more interesting than going down the same one every day.
That's true. I mean, the United States, you just can go from state to state. I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in Michigan,
Oh,
hardworking farmers. We weren't farmers, but
mm-hmm.
very hardworking and just straightforward speaking. And then
Mhm.
came down to Atlanta, Georgia, and it's, the southern
Mhm.
hospitality, but
Mhm.
also the, bless your heart. Um, you think they're being sweet, but they're not, that might be that they're not.
Mm.
But so there's just so many different cultures even within United States.
Yeah, that is so true. And, that's one of the things I loved about traveling so much when I first arrived here is, I mean, just the landscape is so different and the cities have such a different feel. And, um, I had my cousins came to visit from Australia late, sort of last year, and we did a mini road trip and, between Atlanta, New Orleans, Miami, Key West, Savannah, it's just they're all so different. It's
Mhm.
fascinating, actually, and there's so much history as well. Yeah, it's there's a lot to see here.
There is. So
Mm.
when you travel or you're experiencing life, are you more of an outdoor person or an indoor person?
I would say both. I do like I like to get a hike in and see the natural sort of environment, but I also like seeing art and going to museums. I think it depends on where I am.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I would say both. Probably left to my own devices, I would probably do more of the art stuff, but that's only because, I need someone to organize me at times to find, other things to look at.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
did a trip with my brother and sister-in-law, and she was fabulous at finding all these walks to waterfalls. So we did a lot of walking, and I really enjoy that. I just don't always necessarily think to look for it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Um,
and then you mentioned art. So art has also been an important part of your life. So what do you
mhm.
personally like to do? What kind of art?
Um, well, I love contemporary art. I find it and installation art, something that is in a specific place. I've done um just sort of witnessed some really beautiful installations in different cities, and it's just it's thrilling. It's eye-opening. My mother was an artist. She did a lot of watercolors and she did China painting as well. And I've always liked to draw and paint, but I don't really get to do that. So maybe one day in my future, when I'm retired and I'm 80 years old, I'll probably finally get to paint. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's stimulating.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. I've seen some beautiful, beautiful things along the way.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
you have. So let's talk about what you do and how you help people.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm a financial advisor, so that can mean a lot of different things, and you could meet many different advisors, and they all have a different niche, which is great because there's a lot of different people out there. So that's perfect. I focus on values directed investing and working predominantly with women. And what really drives me and what I want to create or make a difference with is really just helping people to set their money up in a way that supports their best life. Now, that might sound like an obvious thing, but I think sometimes it's easy for women in particular, and, maybe if they're post divorce or if they've just not been running the finances, to have that kind of the financial piece be separate to their life. Um, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like we have these different rules and these different structures that we operate within, but we don't necessarily integrate them all into, well, what does your life look like, Dr. Kimberley? What do you like to do? What does your ideal life cost you? Because could be quite different to what your neighbor or your sister or,
Mhm.
someone else in the family. So I really like to work with women to connect with what they want to create. Like, what do you want to create in your life? How does that look? And then, yeah, let's look and see what the money looks like for that and what what do you need to do to make that happen?
Exactly. Yeah, because people do so many different things. Being from Michigan, which is in the north of the United States, most of the people who live there, when they retire, they live in Florida or someplace like
Mm,
that, half the year. And my parents have been doing that for, gosh, 18 years or something. But, half the time they're in Florida and half the time they're in Michigan. So,
mm.
you have to plan for that to have two houses at that time and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or, if it's someone younger, you need to plan for the fact that you want to have a child in 4 years.
Mhm.
Or if you're retiring, you need to plan for the fact that you want your space to look and feel differently so that when you're a bit older, you don't have to walk up 4 flights of stairs. And I think, I think it's easy to be let fear kind of run that process. I find that often, or, women might ignore looking at the financial piece. I
Mhm.
mean, we're all guilty of not looking at facets in our lives, right? You probably know about that. Um, and it's actually much easier and liberating when you do look at it and get a clear understanding of what's going on so that you can take actions, whether it's a course correction or whether it's just feeling relief because everything's going to be okay. Um, it's, you know, it makes a difference when you do a little bit of planning, I think.
So when you're working with women, how do you help them get to those values? Because I think sometimes people don't really even know what their values are. They kind of know what they want and what they don't want. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about values, you're talking about deep-seated beliefs even about how
Mm-hmm.
it should be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I can't say I've done this throughout my career. It's something that I've introduced over time as I've become more aware of sort of the blocks that can be in the way. So I have a series of exercises that women can go through, or my clients can go through. I mean, I have male clients and clients who are couples as well. Um, a values there is a values process I'll get them to go through so that when we start looking at where their money is going, I understand what's important to them and they have that separate filter, rather than things being on autopilot or just kind of an assumed way of doing things. And I also, and I don't use this for everyone because not everyone needs it and not everyone wants it. I also have a series of journaling exercises.
Mhm.
Typically, I do customize those for each client, so that if, everyone has a story about money,
Mhm.
it's kind of the different stories. Some are a little more positive than others, but pretty much everyone has some kind of story around money. And, the journaling helps to uncover perhaps things that maybe aren't helpful or are just unseen. And so, I'll, as part of the process of working with someone and kind of looking at the actual numbers, we'll go through some of those exercises just so there's some greater clarity about, the just and support in the decision making that has to happen.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that helps also to eliminate some of the fear or some of the just reluctance or resistance to looking at things.
Mhm.
And I think what is also very important and should be a given, when you're working with anyone around something as emotional as money is that it's, I mean, there's absolutely no judgment. We all come to a certain place in our lives around money, good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Um, And for the most part, certainly my generation, these days, I mean, not that I'm that old, but, you've got the internet now. I didn't grow up with the internet. I wasn't a teenager or in my early 20s with the internet. I couldn't look up anything I wanted to look up about money. And we don't necessarily get taught the ways in which we should use it wisely. So, and I don't think it's a matter of how much money people have. I mean, someone can have quite a bit of money and still be very anxious around it.
Mm.
And I think some of the journaling and the working on sort of uncovering some of the emotions and thoughts behind those concerns can help to reduce anxiety and stress and allow people to be more in control. And you feel free to interrupt me. I know you asked me a question, I just don't stop. So
That's okay. So I remember when I was in medical school, going to my student mailbox and um over the few months, of the year I was there, getting offers from 4, 5, 6, 8 credit card companies.
hmm
And so, they're I don't know if they can still do that now, but they're bombarding young people who
hmm
basically have no money because they're in school. They're
yeah.
bombarding young people who really don't have the wisdom of how to use money with
hmm
the message that, oh, but you can have whatever you want. Just put it
hmm
on this credit card.
hmm
And then people learn the hard way that, oh, well, you have to pay
yes. Yes, that
credit
the
card,
whole idea of easy money.
right. And then,
hmm
the thought of, uh, I know growing up, I was taught if you want something, you have to save your money and then you
hmm
go get it.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that we've kind of become this society of instant gratification.
Mhm,
um just press that button,
mhm,
delivered to your door.
mhm,
And I mean, I'm even guilty of this. I noticed, I don't know if you did, Dr. Kimberly, but during the time of the pandemic when we weren't really sort of going out so much,
mhm,
I got a little bit addicted to getting that parcel on my doorstep. It was
mhm.
fun.
Yeah, some
So,
interaction or something. Yeah.
um, yeah, so I think it's it's just an awareness. And I think once people start to become aware of that pattern, oh, I'm getting a little hit from this parcel on my doorstep, or pressing that button, or going shopping and having a shopping spree. Um, and of course, yeah, credit card debt can definitely be a wake-up call as well for people. Um, yeah.
So, how do you connect people's values with the decisions you make or you making, helping them make as far as choosing, products or
hmm
ways to manage their money?
Um, there's kind of two layers to that. If someone, I always look and typically to see where people are putting their money now. I mean, both from a sort of investing perspective, but also, um, what they're spending their money on, because I have to know, well, what have you got left over if you want to reach this particular financial goal?
Mhm.
So that's just a filter. I mean, I'll give you an example of something that I looked at for myself. And, the values I think were adventure, beauty, creativity, family. And I have a value sheet, people can find those wherever, they're all over the place, that I went through. And then I started looking at things that I spend money on. Um, And once you start looking, you start to realize, oh, that's why I don't get that excited about doing that one activity with my friends. It's because it doesn't hit any of my values.
Mhm.
So spend less money there. And that was sort of dining out. I'm not really a big
Mhm.
dining out person. I like something that has great ambiance, or, it could be a cup of coffee somewhere, depending on what the ambiance is like. Um, So when you start putting that filter against how your money is being used, it's easier to see, oh, something that was distinct, maybe undistinguished, like it was undistinguished for me, is that, oh, that's why I don't get so excited about dining out. I
Mhm.
want to see my friends, but I don't really care about eating out. Um, and then on the other level, from an investing perspective, it's really looking at what people care about, which can vary widely. Someone who's vegetarian might not want to be invested in meat producers, or someone who cares about the environment might want to be mindful of the type of companies they're invested in. So that's a whole other different type of questionnaire, which is more about, what do you care about? What are the causes more that you are interested in? And,
Mhm.
everyone has different degrees of that. Some might be quite adamant, and others are like, yeah, I mean, if we can do a little bit of this, that'd be great, type of thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah. So when's a good time to see a financial planner? Because I've heard of the rule of 72 where, if you're younger,
hmm
compound interest, it's
hmm
much better to start then. But, how many 18-year-olds walk into your office?
yeah. I think there are a lot. I mean, in my office, pretty much none. I mean,
Mm.
unless it's the son or daughter of an existing client. Um, but I think there are a lot more younger people getting involved in planning and investing, and partly because it's more accessible. There's a lot more information out there. There are a lot of younger advisors out there, and maybe there always was, probably not as many.
Mhm.
Um, there's just huge networks of advisors that are dealing with younger generations. But I would say, because I do get asked that question, is as soon as you can, because I meet so many people that have waited and waited, and
Mhm.
they've lost that compounding effect, and they may have made decisions that, if they had just done one thing differently, it could have made all the difference.
Mhm.
And and definitely at times when there's a life change, just to get some support around, okay, what's going to make the most sense, and where are you at now, and what do you need to do next.
Mhm.
um yeah, I think it's useful, because our life, I mean, what I'm doing now is very different to what I was doing 20 years ago, which is different to what I was doing 10 years before that. um and don't make it a one-time event, because I went to see a stockbroker in my early 20s. This is back when that's all that you had was stockbrokers.
Mhm.
And I got sold some stocks, which I never looked at again, because, it wasn't advice, it was just selling stocks. And gradually they became worthless. But life changes. It's good to get ongoing advice, even if it's just every couple of years. But because I do get asked that question, and people think it's too late, but it's never too late, you know, to get clear about what you want to do, and whether your money is supporting you in that. So,
And people have very different journeys too.
mhm,
So,
very much so. Yeah.
yeah. So, I know you have a small group program. Do you want to talk
hmm
about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I was talking with a friend, and I was just telling her how I really wanted to help women to live like a deeply fulfilled life, supported by their money. And she just happened to mention that she had some friends that she thought would be interested in knowing more about that. So we did that first money circle. And to be honest, Dr. Kimberley, I absolutely loved it. I mean, because I love working with women. Um, I loved the combination of, a little bit of, it was looking at, and what I look at is, when I bring the people in, it's usually 3 to 6. It's a small group. Is, what do you want to know from a financial education point of view so that you feel more confident when you're talking with your current advisor or with a friend about your money. So,
Mhm.
you feel like you can stand strong in that.
Mhm.
Um, and then sort of some practical ways of managing money, particularly for entrepreneurs that have kind of a fluctuating cash flow. And then we also talk about some of the things that get in the way for women, this sense of what our value is and associating the pricing to the value,
Mhm.
and, go through some of those personalized journaling questions, which I craft based on the conversations we have in each call. So it's a 7-week program, and it's designed to be short and focused. So to help the women connect with their money in a way that they haven't done before,
Mhm.
and to do that in a safe space, and where they get support from me. And obviously, I have a wealth of experience in kind of financial matters, so I can kind of help them with that. And it does include some one-on-one time with me as well. So it's something that I love to do, and it's accessible. I keep the price pretty low, so that, I mean, low is relative, right?
Mhm.
Um, someone that doesn't want to do one-on-one sort of in-depth planning work can still get access to that.
So if people wanted to connect with you, where can they connect with you? And and if you want to talk about whatever services you have available.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, they can connect with me. They can send me an email, Meredith at heartstrongwealthplanning.com. There's a reason for that name, and it's on my website. And there's also a calendar link on the Contact Us page on my website. So they can use that to set up a time to chat.
Hmm.
I always just have an initial conversation with someone just to see, yeah, what do you need help with? Am I the right person to help you?
Hmm.
So there's no, sort of no pressure, no obligation. And the primary services that I offer outside of the money circles are planning, in-depth planning to help someone make sure that they are set up to do whatever they want to do next in life, including that kind of emotional and sort of money story support if they need that, which seems like most people do because we all have stories. And I also do investing. So specifically, what's my heart is drawn to is values directed investing for people that want to be a little more mindful about where their money is going, because a lot of us might spend a certain way and but not necessarily invest that way. And as I said, that's a spectrum. There's, again, no judgment. It's whatever people need to support their needs, and ultimately, they want to grow their wealth, so I help them with that. And yeah, I like the longer term relationship. I do offer one-off planning for people who just have sort of some burning questions, but what I really love is a long-term relationship, and just getting to know my clients, and becoming friends and helping them along the way. So yeah.
Hmm. Well, now I have a personal question for you.
Okay.
What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
mm. Well, I'll definitely travel. I love being in new places, and I like being in new places of learning as well. I kind of just recently realized that. I did a class in Milton Keynes in October, was it November? And I just really enjoyed, and it was with other advisors, and I really enjoyed just hearing what they were doing. Um, I find it really inspiring when I meet other people in my profession that are doing what I'm kind of interested in doing, is making a difference for their clients, and really coming from a place of, I guess, holistic planning, not just, well, you should do XYZ and off you go. So I find that incredibly fulfilling, is when I know that I've helped someone feel stronger in that area. I love being with family, and I love traveling with family. I'm fortunate, I guess, because not everyone would be able to say that, but I do love, I find that extremely fulfilling is traveling with my family. And I like to write. I'm attempting to write more. I love art too. Viewing some fabulous, unexpected contemporary art somewhere and is always fun for me. Guess that's it. I like nature. I like watching birds. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. You're a very great host. I feel like I have been talking nonstop. So thank you for being so gracious while I, you know, did that and for asking great questions and being such a warm and receptive host. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I have one last question.
Oh, okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Oof. Oh, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to have that. You know, it's
Mhm.
so easy to get trapped in rules, structures, what is currently so, and to limit oneself. And I really think it's important to sort of just put those things aside, which can sometimes take a lifetime, and allow yourself to have the life that you desire. And you can do that and still it's not selfish. You can be who you came to be and do what you want to do and still be probably of even greater service to your family and community and the things that you care about. You just asked for one thing, right?
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Meredith.
Thank you. Thank you. This was fun.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.